My name is Tiffany Q, and welcome to my ABRSM Grade 5 Theory Lessons series, where I record snippets of my live lessons with my students. Please note that this is not a substitute for a textbook. If you're preparing for the theory exam, I would still recommend having a teacher to guide you through both the coursework and exam paper preparation. Before we complete any questions in the chords section, it's important that we write out a chord plan for every single question that there is. This way, it will free up our minds a lot and make our lives a lot easier when we're completing the questions, and I'll show you that later. So, a chord plan. Let's do one in C major first. So we can start off by drawing a treble clef, and then the next step is the key signature. In C major, there is none. No sharps and no flats. And then we start with the first note of C major, which is C. So that will be our chord 1. And then the second note of C major, that is our chord 2. And then, this is important, it's the fourth note now, the subdominant chord, chord 4. You can label them using Roman numerals. And then finally, the last chord you need to know for grade 5 is chord 5, which is the fifth note of C major. And then the next step we do is we stack up the third and the fifth of each note to form the chord. So for this C, I go up a third, becomes an E, then go up to the fifth, which is a G. And just fill that in for each one. And that is your chord plan in C major. This helps a lot because now we can immediately see all the notes of each chord. For example, chord 4 of C major has the notes F, A, and C, and we always read the chords from the lowest note and going up. Let's do another one in A flat major. We'll do it right beside it. Again, treble clef. Choose a clef that is very easy for you to read. So if you are a cellist, for example, you might prefer to do it in the bass clef. It doesn't really matter. A flat major has 4 flats: B flat, E flat, A flat, and D flat. Again, the first note of A flat major is A flat, second note is a B flat, the fourth one is a D flat. We have to skip the space in between with a note in between 2 and 4, and then chord number 5. I'm going to write it like this because it seems easier. You could obviously do it an octave lower. You could even do chord 5 an octave lower if you feel like it's getting too big, or too high, I should say. But let's do that for uniformity. The good thing about this grade 5 exam is that you have 3 questions in the chords, and the second question, actually there are 2 parts to it. So technically you have 4 questions, and out of the 4, the only question that will require you to actually name the key or figure it out yourself is the first question. That's the melody question, which we'll look at later on today. The other questions, so the cadences and the inversions, they will actually state the key for you, and they will give you the key signature in the question, so that really helps. So when you have the key signature and you have the key, you could easily write a chord plan. Let's try one in the minor key. The only difference between the major chord plan and the minor chord plan is that in the minor chord plan you must include the raised 7th. Now the raised 7th will always be the middle note of your chord 5, always. So as long as you add that in, you should be good to go. So let's do one in F sharp minor. Okay, don't forget, because it's a minor, we also need to add the raised seventh. The raised seventh is always the middle note of chord 5. So chord 5, that there is an E natural, so if we raise that by a semitone for the raised seventh, it becomes an E sharp. And that's it. That is your F sharp minor chord plan. Cadences. Cadences are two chords in music that act like full stops. They usually signify the end of a phrase in which the melody or harmony creates a sense of finish. We always find cadences at the end of a section, or the end of a piece, or just the end of a phrase even. There are 3 types of cadences you need to know for grade 5. So the first one is the perfect cadence, and that's when chord 5 goes straight to chord 1 at the end of a phrase or section. The plagal cadence is when chord number 4 goes straight to chord 1 at the end of a phrase or section. And an imperfect cadence is when we have chords 1 to 5, 2 to 5, and 4 to 5 at the end of a phrase or section. So I'm saying that phrase or section because sometimes people get confused and think that just because we have 2 chords next to each other in the middle of a phrase, that makes it a cadence. But a cadence is sort of like a point in music that is sort of like punctuation in language. You do need to memorize all these chords. Okay, perfect cadence 5 to 1, plagal 4 to 1. So both of the ones beginning with P end in 1, and then the imperfect cadences all end in 5. So it's all the other chords that you've learned from grade 5 and then going to chord number 5. So here are some examples of perfect cadences. You can write the chord plan and name the key if you wish, but I'm just going to use the opportunity to show you what they sound like. So this one here clearly is in E flat minor because of that raised 7th there. So we see an accidental. And if we were to draw out the chord plan of E flat minor, and we were to look at all these notes, we would find that all these notes belong to chord number 5 in E flat minor. And all of these notes here, both in the bass clef and the treble clef, are all notes from chord number 1. So perfect cadences usually end a piece because it sounds very finished. Chord 5 is the dominant chord. The word dominant is very strong or important. And then going to the tonic. So that is a very strong finish. Sounds like the end of a piece. This one here is in A major because chord 5 would have a raised 7th if it was a minor key. So this is chord number 5 in A major, and that's chord number 1. I had to spread that because my hands are not big enough. Plagal cadences. Plagal cadences also end a piece. Chord number 4 is not quite as strong as chord number 5, so it doesn't sound as heroic as the perfect cadence. Plagal cadences are quite popular in hymns or religious music. We actually did a chord plan in A flat major, so if you had taken it down, you might notice there, just take a look, that these notes all form chord 4 of A flat major. So we have a D flat there in the bottom, F on the top, A flat, and we have another D flat. So these are all belong to chord number 4. And then chord number 1 in A flat major, we've got A flat in the bass, we have an E flat here, A flat, and then a C at the top. So they're all sort of jumbled around, but very distinctly you can see that those notes belong to those respective chords. So this is what a plagal cadence sounds like. This is the first one. And then the next one here. There we go. Examples of imperfect cadences. Imperfect cadences are generally found within the music, so in the middle of the section or something like that, rather than at the very end of the piece. So they sound unfinished. That's 1 to 5. 2 to 5 here is this one. Doesn't sound quite finished. And then the last one here, 4 to 5. So again, it doesn't quite sound finished. It sounds very suspenseful, as if something else is going to happen. And if we actually add the chord number 1 after this, we go 4, 5, 1, we'll realize it sounds very finished.